I had an interesting thing in Dean Ankrum, whoever he is, God rest his soul, he was the city marshal back in 69 and 70. They loaded them children up on cattle trucks. They like to haul cows to the state. Took those children, brought them up in Water Valley Jail. Well, the city police, Dean Ankrum, he took those signs away from those children and gave them back to them. I'm talking about 69 and 70. Okay, about 8 years ago, this guy worked for Dean Ankrum. And he was claiming, I got something you need, you want. I said, what is it? He come go with me. And I went out to the car with him and he hiked the trunk. And I said, where you get them signs from? Them the marching signs back in the 60s. He said, Dean Ankrum had them in his barn out there. He arrested those children and took them to jail. He kept those signs. So them signs is in their hand. So that is the history that you hear on with. But that's what happened before the 70s. That's what happened in me.
Wow. All right. Now you gotta ask questions now. I walked out there and I went through there and I looked at the sign and I, thinking like, okay, they did a good job with this sign. But this is the actual sign.
And the actual sign printed in 1968. Actual sign. One child wrote her name on it. I think she said she was about 14 years old then. And that's Faye. She used to be a blank. Faye Kimball. Mr. Junior Spencer, I left him out. He was one of the main ones. James Junior Spencer, Mr. Junior Spencer's daughter. She had her sign, had her name signed on one of those real signs. And she said when they were bringing them to Water Valley, they brought some of them in a pickup truck. And she said when they bring them to Water Valley, there was about 10 of them on the back of that truck. And they would do that. And almost make them wreck, they'd make the truck wobble. He would stop and he would fuss at them and then he'd take off.
So it's important, and we're seeing how even the conversation of making these connections of the conversations that we've had so far. I'm still stuck on those signs. I'm gonna move forward. In my mind, I got, when we get through, I'm gonna go look at the sign and just say, okay, these are things that are present, because a lot of times we look at things on TV, but we have this live conversation right now to find out what was going on so that we don't repeat. History. Now, Ms. Key, if I could ask y'all maybe one or two questions, and anything else y'all would like to share, and kind of go forward with that. So, Ms. Key, you talked about something woke up in me when you talked about rote memorization. Because I can remember in the classroom getting to learn this, but to move them forward, you have to take them to that step further, where it's, I think I was sharing with someone in here about conceptual, like you got this big idea. So for you, and how did the students relate to you as that educator in the classroom?
They related to me well. I think they really believed I what I was teaching. And after I stayed in Oakland, they moved me back to Coffeyville after 7 years because I simply refused to come back because I was enjoying myself. I practiced for a while. But when I did come back, they gave me 11th and 12th grade. And those students, white and black, I had no trouble with them. They related to me. They acted as if they thought I was something that they break or something. But I truly enjoyed working with them. And I stayed up nights and nights trying to think, now, what am I going to do to make them interested in history? Most people just don't like history. That's what we need to like. So I had to show them, that's you. That's part of you. And you don't want to take you and throw it away. And some of them truly believe me. I've been saying, I see them now. I run into students everywhere, white and black. And they still tell me about things like that.
Because in some days you're like, I don't know.
I had those days I had to pray to get through them, But I didn't mind. After the prayer, I could see the prayer wheel rolling.
Yeah. Okay. So that's great to hear. So you continue to push forward. You had an impact on your students as well, because we know it, not necessarily when it happens, but years down the line. how that impacts students. Mr. Horton, I don't think it's funny, but the Boys and Girls Club.
Yeah.
I think about I was that little kid running around, man, and how someone stands up. And you, as a young child, don't even understand history. It's right there in your face. Right, there are two living examples. We got 3 with 5, everybody in here. Living examples so for Mr. Horton, how did that shape you, your experience there in coffee? How did that shape you moving forward in your life?
I didn't want to see that happen with my children, my grandchildren. And that's why I got out there and fought so hard to all have the right to do what they desire instead of somebody else telling me you can't do this because you're colored. Because I know God made all of it. So why you on this grace one when you do what you want to do and others can't? You see, I told some of them downtown, see how God fixed things. The water fountain. I remember the water fountain back in the 50s. Downtown there, on the street, 2 of them still there. One of them is on the property that me and Brother Dudley and Mason owned. We could not drink out of those water fountains. My little boy did, we could come down like twice a year. But whenever we did, we made sure we didn't drink out of the water fountain. We go around behind town and turn the fountain on back there on the street. So I made a joke a while back. I said, we couldn't drink out of these fountains, but now we own the fountain.
Oh, yeah.
We own the fountain. We bought the property. One of the fountains is owned. And I said, you see how God works? What did it say? Before the end, the bottom reader, come on up. So it worked. And I just thank God for the things that He have did and let my eyes see.
That is amazing to read this in a book. Of course, Mr. Hawkins' book, but to hear it right now and how that's encouraging for me. I talked about earlier about the generations, how there's a gap in the generations. Conversations like this, because I'm sad to say some of the stuff I don't know. Educated and all, you don't know, but to be educated to know how to continue on. So I'll leave the floor open to for you to share anything you would like.
I'd like to share the fact that when he's talking about the boys and girls school, my brothers, they experienced that. They went up the wrong step. And I guess, you know, they missed the whole year of school. It was, my,
Whole year of school for going up the road?
well, the rest of the year of school, I think it probably, it was at the bottom of the year. I think they might have continued to go, I'm not sure, but anyway, that's what happened.
Okay.
And another thing is my daddy was so outspoken until he had to go to jail too. But we had people like Clayton was kind of young and that he was quite in it, but we had people like him who did, and he did too. They had post funds for him to get out. He was an old man, but they told him, I already told him something about it, and he stopped it. Daddy wasn't gonna have the last word, so he ended up with jail.
That's good.
I tell you, we experienced a lot during those days, a lot.
Yeah, so I'm trying to gather my words on that. So it's good to know where people did experience it,
Yeah.
but how do we keep going forward?
I need to clear this. The reason that they stayed out, they started boycott again. They said all that was in plan.
Okay.
They didn't get that.
Okay, yes, ma'am. Yes, ma'am.
They
So,
went back to next fall.
okay, yes, ma'am. But thank you for that information. Mr. Horton, you have anything else you would like to share?
I would like to wind it up, thanking my pastor. That's my pastor who wrote the book. My pastor. On last night, history wrote again when I looked through the crowd and saw the people come to support him on his book. And I wouldn't have no quiet last night. You gonna look at it tonight? She said, no, because I may not put it down. I asked them one thing. Open that book at 10:30, because that's when I look at the news and get ready to go to bed. I opened it at 10:30, and I think it's 12 something when I was able to close. I just had to close a set of clothes and put add this. Thank God.
And the thing we understand now is that it goes on video, it goes on online, and those things are archived now, where we will not forget your story. So thank y'all very much. Okay. All right. Next we'll have Mr. Dudley and Ms. Cox. Live before 1970. All right. Has anybody learned anything today? Thank y'all so much for joining us up here for the forum. We'll give the opportunity to share your name, what you want to share about us, and get a couple of questions from you. Okay?
I'm Julia Cox, a member of the Early Elevation Baptist Church, born and raised here in Water Valley. I was born Junior Rotten.
Okay, I'm Mac H. Dudley from Coffeyville, Mississippi. Born and raised in Alahousha County, been here for 74 years. It's a blessing for us to be here. Brother Hawkins was talking about them people that give words so much in this book, and I'm just so happy and proud that he did something to get us to know our history. It's a lot of history in Yalbush County, and he's gonna have to write part 2 to this book after this form is over. So much of the history has been, and nobody know about it.
You got an assignment, Mr. Hawker, part 2. Coming out later. All right, Ms. Cox.
Yes, and I'd just like to say, you know, I listened to all these speakers, it was great. But I've never really experienced all that stuff. Because one thing, my parents, they put the old in poor. We lived in the rural section, which I was real small, and I didn't know anything about it until after we got to town. But my parents didn't teach us segregated part. I learned that later in life. So when I'm listening to this stuff, it's history to me because Calvin and I talk, that's my nephew. We talk all the time, and he would tell me about he over in the graveyard and stuff. What's the looking for? And he be telling me all this stuff that he had seen and what he found and what he didn't see. And I'm like, well, you know, when we went to school, my parents, when I was 8 years old, we moved from the rural section to the city of Water Valley. Talk about Water Valley, because I don't know about Coffeyville and Oakland. I don't know nothing about those places. But the schoolhouse was on the corner of Simmons and Blackman Drive. If you ever go to Water Valley, you'll see that. And the school that I attended was a little red building that sat behind this elementary school, behind high school. The church was across in front. So, you know, we sort of had to act right. Now, I didn't go to a mixed school. I went to all black. I had all black teachers. I remember Sister Montgomery Kelly. She went around to all the white schools and collected the books that they had the names in, pages thrown out. And sometimes the books were so bad that she had to see. The teacher would have to write on the blackboard what she was talking about. So we learned a lot of stuff by hearing the teacher talking. You trying to take a note and couldn't spell the words, so you put down what you thought it was supposed to be. But this is where I went. They had a little red building back there. We all what they had. We had primer, and to show you different than time we had now. They had a primer and a high primer. We had a primer, a high primer. That was before we got to first grade. Now we're smart enough, we can get the 2 primers in 1 year. And then we could go to first grade. But if not, if a book didn't have nothing in it, We had to study from somebody else's book. We didn't take no books home. And we had that high primer, that's 2 years to pass. Then we started first grade. So that made us older when we came out of high school than we would have been if we had started off in first grade. So when you look at today's time, my daddy, he was a pipeline worker. My mama had all these children, there's about 10 of us, and she stayed at home. She had once been a country school teacher, and she taught education. She believed in authority. She believed that you needed to know something in here in order to survive in this country. But she never talked about racism. She never talked about certification. All thing we do was stay in your own class. That meant tend to your own business. Don't go around. And another thing, as I'm growing up, I'm not going to be long. I learned after we moved to Water Valley in what they call Possum Hollow, now in Wesley Street. I learned that when you get in a community of people, that you learn to unite, to pray, love, and get respect for each other. Now, you know, that respect has been going away from us here. We are separated. We don't respect. We don't love. We don't care. And see, that time is out. But up to the 70s, the people that lived together, they ate together, they worshiped together, and they shared everything. If you had pork, I had some. If you had greens and peas, I had some. If you were sick, I came and I cleaned up your house. This is the unity that I live in. And, you know, we weren't allowed to go to town at night. I hear them talking about different things that happen. But it got dark at 5 o'clock, you better be on my mother's porch. So she'd be sitting there with that old yellow streak with 3 of them wrapped together. And if you come in there after that, you're going to get something you didn't really want. But what I'm getting to is says this. We as history making people for the next generation, we need to teach our children love, respect. We need respect for each other. We need respect for all people in our communities worldwide. I left the state, this is past 70, but I left the state of Mississippi, but I learned that when you get out by yourself, you don't know nobody, you're in a state where nobody there but you, and you got one thing to call on, and that's God Almighty. I learned that young, but you know what? He kept me. I went and I came back. I never had a problem. I had one fight in school, one out of all those years. And guess what? The teacher had to separate us. Now, I like to talk, y'all, so you know I'm not going to be long. I love talking. I go to the nursing home, and I get those folks out about trying to sing with somebody. I learned this in life. Whatever you can do to help somebody as you pass along, whatever you can do to work song, your living will not be in doubt. I've learned that.
Thank you so much. That's a lot of wisdom that's passed along. One thing about making those connections among generations is important to do. Thank you so much for sharing. It is not. Mr. Matt, Ms. Cox, this is my first time meeting you, but you definitely dropped a wealth of knowledge. Mr. Matt, tell you about Mr. Matt. Of course, I've known him all my life. And one thing I can say about him is history. If something I want to know, you want to tell us about it, he has it. So you're up next, Mr. Matt. Thank you so much, Ms. Cox.
I'm going to kind of piggyback off of what Sister Cox said in certain areas. I came into the school system in '56. That's when they closed all the church schools. I wasn't old enough at that time, but I had to go with my older brother. And some of you might know that Pittman Lane School, that was our schoolhouse. And we had to walk about 2 miles to school. And that's when I had to learn everything that he learned when I wasn't old enough. And in '56, when they closed all the schools, I went to Coffeyville School, first grade. And we had some dedicated teachers. You learned. There wasn't no ifs and ands about it. If you didn't, you got that razor strap across your back. And you know, I can remember all of those old teachers. My cousin, Dr. Martin, Ethelina Dudley, and Maggie Martin, all of those older ones. You learned something in school then. And it's one thing that we don't have today that we had then, and that was respect. And we had fear. Good fear. Not scared, shaky fear. Good fear. Fear not to do what they told you not to do. And we had respect when they said, be quiet, you be quiet. And I think that we as a generation have lost that fear. And what I'm talking about is those high fear. Nobody seems to fear God anymore. Do y'all agree with me on that? That fear. We need that fear. That fear. We need to instill that fear. And I came from a Christian family, a bunch of the elder ones were preachers, teachers, and you name it. And they taught us the golden rule. I know all of us remember the golden rule. Do unto others as you would have them to do unto you. And I never did forget that. And, you know, and my mother always used to say, boy, you're going to reap what you sow. You know, those are some things that stuck with me. And as piggybacking off her, I didn't know racism. We wasn't taught racism. We was taught that the other person is better than you are, you know, to a certain extent. That means that counts the other person better than you and do all you can do to help him to do what's wrong. And not in the racism that we think that they are better than us. It's to treat everybody alike. And my mother used to sing a song, say, you got to love everybody if you want to see God. That's tough, isn't it? That's tough, isn't it? When people's abusing you and all of that, but you still got to love them. And I came into the school system and we had good teachers, and it's one professor that sticks out in my mind, and some of y'all know him, Professor Roy Pitkin. We lost him a couple of years ago. And he took the group of boys, he was our first teacher. And this was one thing that I remember that stuck out. So we won all of the contests everywhere we went, in all tones and all over the state. And we were bringing so many pictures in to the, I seen the paper maybe somewhere a while ago. Mr. Denton was over the paper then. And he told him, so y'all winning everything and bringing all these pictures. I can't print all these pictures. These white folks get mad at me. And he had to stop printing or putting our pictures in the paper when we went off to other schools and beat other schools. And I remember that. But you know, we were perseverers. We kept on doing it. We never did stop. And you know, when you tell me that I can't do something, you just sign the paper that I'm going to do it. and you know, I have all of the court cases here that if anybody want to look at them, when they filed a lawsuit against the school system and all the biracial committees and all of that, I was a part of that in the civil rights. I was the president of the SCLC. And that. From after then, I was elected to the school board. How many of y'all know Mr. Womack? Used to be the school superintendent. He was the, county superintendent?
County superintendent. At then, we all organized one unit.
Yeah.
County superintendent.
You had the county superintendent.
You had school superintendent.
Yeah. And he told me something that I never will forget. He said, boy, He said, everybody need to serve on the school board and on the jury trial. And at that time, you know, I'm being 18 years old. What was he talking about? And I learned from that. I think everybody ought to serve on a jury trial and be on the school board. You learn something. You learn your neighbor. You learn to hate your neighbor. And they call you everything but a child of God.
I know.
And if you're on any kind of boards, from that I served my tenure on the school board. I served my tenure on the board of aldermen. I tell people all the time and they laugh at me. I've been everything in this county but a dog catcher. Somebody say you better watch out. But this has been an experience for me. I'm so elated about the ladies that started all this, that volunteered. I remember all of that. You know, they used to send notes home to different parents. Most people don't know this. And ask the question, is your child eligible to be taught? And that's when they was trying to ease segregation in. You know, they wanted to pick who came to the schools. And most parents were scared to send their children to the school. Because you know what happened in this county, some things that they hadn't told yet, that this book is gonna bring out, that happened in Yalobusha County, in Water Valley, Coffeyville, in Oakland. All of those old people's about gone that knew all this stuff. And we didn't want to talk about it. Why didn't we want to talk about this history? We need to know about the history.
Yes.
If you don't know where you come from, you don't know where you're going. You'll repeat the same mistakes over and over. And those three ladies, I wonder where y'all did that. See, at the time in 69 and all them days, I was out hustling. I thought